Hello and welcome to the Wednesday night / Wednesday morning / Wednesday afternoon modeling stream. Thanks for joining me. I'm your streamer today, Bryan Bentley, Department Head of Modeling at CG Spectrum. What are we doing today? Working on the Cortex bots as usual. Taking a long time, but I don't really get a chance to work on it. So these are the only times I get to work on it. So you get to see me work on it. All right. Boom. Where are we at? So I went through and I redid some of the work that I had lost the previous week, and I just went through and just kind of organized a bunch of stuff. Yeah. So now I'm into. So if I go, I'm gonna switch over to UV editing, and so what I have is I have each one of these little pieces broken up. They're all broken up pretty roughly. I went through this pretty fast and UV'd a boatload of this stuff. So each one of these is kind of in its own tile. Some of these tiles are more efficient than others because I was just doing what I call the initial splat. I just want to get everything. So if I select everything in here and I turn on my grid, so I have to actually select the geometry. Turn off my pivots, select my geometry. So everything is relatively flat. Like I don't have tons of distortion in many places. So now comes kind of the kind of logistics part of it. Is I need to figure out how I want to pack these things together, because right now I have them flat, but I need to figure out how to pack them, and I'm probably going to do a little bit of optimization, just to make them a little bit more. Some of them a little bit more efficient. Like some of them I might have some like floating things like this or things like that. Some things can be straightened and whatnot. So before I do anything technical like that, I do want to go through. I always go through when I'm making these transitions, and I'm going to go through and make sure a few things. I want to make sure that all of my geometry is frozen. So I want to make sure I don't have any. So here we can see I have some numbers there and such. So I want those to be all nice and frozen at this stage. So I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to say modify freeze transformations. So I'm going to freeze all of that. So that's all good. The other thing is, I think at this point, I want to take my pivots, right? Because I still have, so I want to take my pivots and I want to put them all at the origin here, right? Let me turn off one thing real quick. I think I got Teams. Just got to turn off one thing. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So for most of these, I'm going to do this. I don't think I'm going to do this for my pistons, because my pistons have this really nice orientation to them. And actually, yeah, I'm gonna leave those as they are. So the pistons are they're like this mechanical part that I kind of need. I need to keep those. I need to keep their orientation. Now, their parents have the correct orientation, so I could probably go through. Yeah, I can go through and I can freeze those out as well. So let's do. Yeah, so let's grab all these. Say, modify freeze transformations. So yeah, all these have. So I'm going to leave their pivots where they are. So, but everything else, I'm going to move the pivot down to the center. So I'm going to hide these because they're kind of like a special case. And everything else, I'm going to take and grab. Hey Pietro, how's it going? So I'm going to take everything else and I'm going to move its pivot down to the center. So I'm going to press D, and we see all these little pivots pop up everywhere. And then I'm going to hold down X, and we're going to move all these pivots down to the world and press D again. So now, so this is kind of like a fail-safe. So if I were to accidentally move this, and I was like, oh, how do I get back to this? One, I know I have numbers here, so I can zero this out. And two, if my pivot is like over here somewhere, I can say, oh, this thing is wrong. Hold down X and just snap that back to the world, and everything's all good. So that's one thing that I like to do. That's a couple things that I like to do. So that's a pretty big change. So I'm going to say File, Save Scene As, and I'm going to bump this up to 200 level. All right. So how do I want to split this apart? Now, I always have to remember that I have this little brain case under here. So there's a bunch of different ways to handle UVs, and you basically build them all exactly the same way, but they all work just a teensy bit differently. So let's see, where's my epic pen? Oh, there it is. So I usually think of UVs in a few different ways. So first one is unified UVs. Oops. Unified. So in a unified UVs, all of my UVs are in a 0 to 1 space. Okay? All my UVs, so this whole character will sit inside this one UV patch. This is U. This is V. So you'll see this in games a fair bit, or mobile, especially mobile games and things that don't have a lot of processing power. You'll see like an entire character inside this UV space. So to save space, for things like left arms and right arms, they'll be sitting on top of each other, and like the leg would be sitting like these two things would be sitting in the same kind of UV space. So that one would be there and that one would be there. All right. So this guy is super complex. So I don't think I'm going to do this because one, if I wanted to get really close, so let's say I wanted to, like, the shot required me to get like that close, right? So basically the entire screen, if I wanted a close up of this guy. Okay. So let's say this is going to be a 4K image, or I'm playing a 4K game or whatever, whatever. This is a movie. So 4K. That means that this section, ideally, of his face, the texture resolution of that spot should be 8K. Because you generally want double the resolution of the closest you're going to get to this thing. Okay? So that means, like, if all of this is in this 0 to 1 space, let's say his face is here, and like that part of the head is like there, right? So running the colors here. So that means that this little chunk here, that has to be 8K. So if that has to be 8K, like, what dimension does this have to be? Right? This may have to be like 32K or 64 or something like that. So that's unmanageable for most most people's home computers or in a video game. You just can't load a gigantic 64 or 16 or 8K. Well, maybe 8K. Computers are powerful enough to run 8K, but 32 and 64 are definitely no-goes. I know a lot of visual effects, like hardcore visual effects stuff, is starting to use 16K textures. But for hobbyists and for what we're doing, I think 8K is going to be our cap. Okay. So that's one way of doing it, like the whole unified texture. The next way of doing this is going to be material-based textures. So material-based. Let's go back to my... So what material-based is for each section, like each chunk, is going to have its own material. So it's going to have its own, like if you think about it, like in Maya, there's a terrible drawing, that little shader ball thing. Looks like a green bean. But you get the idea, right? So I would have a shader for this guy, and that would have a 0 to 1 space. There would be a shader for maybe this section. Right? And that would have its own 0 to 1 space. And so on and so forth. So like that one would have a 0 to 1 space. This would have a 0 to 1 space. This would have a 0 to 1 space. Right? So each chunk of this guy has its own material or shader, and each one sits in its own 0 to 1 space. So if you were to look at them, all sitting on top of each other, it would be a big jumble. But if you look at each material, right, everything will make sense. So this is still mostly how Unreal works. I know that's how Unreal works by default. So you can have so the drawback of the great thing about this is that fixes my texture problem. So if I'm going to get really close to this guy, this has a shader on it. This is thank you, Suradin. I appreciate that. So this guy this whole face can now have its own 0 to 1 space. So my face can be here. Hey, Rushback, what's going on? So my face can be here, and that can be 8K, right? And then this thing can also could be like, so then like this could be, if I never have to get super close to these things, these could be 4K. And then this one, maybe it could be 2K. And this one could be like 512 or something like that. So it splits it up. Now the problem is with this, not the problem, but the issue is every single one of these shaders has to be calculated. So this has to be calculated. This has to be calculated. That needs to be calculated. That needs to be calculated. All that stuff needs to be calculated. And within your scene, you have multiple shaders to deal with, right? Yeah, I'm talking about shaders, different ways of organizing your UVs, right? So it's one way to do it. So this is generally how it's done in Unreal, and I believe this is how it's done in Unity as well. It's mostly it's material based. So this material, that material. So each one of those gets its own 0 to 1. So that's another way to organize it. And none of this stuff is really technical, right? These are all kind of like soft skills. Because I'm going to lay them out exactly the same way, no matter what I do. So that's material based. And then the last one, which is what I'm super used to, because I come from a visual effects background, is UDIMS. So what a UDIM is So what a UDIM is it's basically the same as shader based, but I have one shader, so I'm only calculating one shader. Right? But that shader now knows to look in different tiles, and those tiles have names. And I would put that name for that tile in my file name. So for example, this tile is 001, and this is 002, and this is 003, and so on and so forth. And then going upwards, this is 0, 011. This is 0, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, and so on and so forth. And then same thing going up here. It's 0, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. Okay? This is called UDIM tiles. So I could have, like, this section could sit in this tile. This section can sit in that tile. That section can sit in that tile. This leg can sit here. The other leg can go there, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so forth. Substance Painter works with all of these. You can do all of this stuff in Substance Painter. Like you can do unified, you can do texture. In Substance Painter, it calls the material base, it calls it texture sets. So actually, it calls everything texture sets, but it's just how it's breaking it up, right? So this is UDIMS, and this is what I'm used to. And I want to do an experiment. I did look up in the older versions of Unreal, you couldn't do UDIMS. But I think with some tinkering and some pressing of buttons and turning of knobs, you can get it to do UDIMS. It does something called virtual texture streaming or something like that. So I think I'm going to do UDIMS. So your file names would be something like base color dot 001 dot EXR, and then you'd have that same one that would be tile 1. This would be tile 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. So when the shader looks at this, it says, "Oh, you're at your base color .003." So I'm going to go look up the UDIMS or the UVs. 1003, right? It's going to say, "Oh, okay, I'll look up here. This is 1004. I'm going to go look over here," right? If it's 1011, it'll look here, and so on and so forth. So the advantage of this is the same as the advantage for the material base, but you only have one shader to deal with. So one shader, and this is because of the rise of, I call it the rise of the Uber shader. You have these shaders, these super shaders that can pretty much kind of describe everything. They can describe glass or water or metal or skin or whatever, right? So before, back in my day, right, you would have a specific shader that was just for glass, or you would have a specific glass shader, or a specific skin shader, or a specific plastic shader. So that's why you would break up your object by material. Now that we have these Uber shaders that can be anything, there's really no reason to have a bunch of different shaders attached to your model. Because if you have one shader that can describe everything, if you just feed it different numbers, then you can just have that one shader describe everything. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. And you can get through my kind of beautiful mind scribblings. I got my tea. Okay, so how do I want to break this thing up? Generally, when I start working with UVs, I try to always work in square numbers. Because, and no one told me this when I was in high school math, square numbers are incredibly useful because they literally make a square, which is what a UDIM tile is. It's a square. So a square number is 1 because it makes a square. So if I do 2, that next square, 1, 2, 3, 4, makes a square. 4 makes a square, right? The next one is 9 because if I do 3 by 3, that's 9, right? Square number. The next one is 16 because it's 4 by 4. Next one is 25. That's 5 by 5. Next one is 36. 6 by 6. Right? These are square numbers. That's why they're called square, because they make a perfect square. That blew my mind when I realized that. I was like, oh my god. oh my god, my math teacher lied to me. These are important, right? Or I lied to myself. My math teacher was telling me the truth. So I try to break everything up into square numbers. If I can get everything into one, I'll do it in one. If I can do it in three, like if I have three, I'll try to shoehorn it into four because that is the most efficient packing ratio. Okay. So I said I'm going to take UDIMS and square. All right. Cool. So how do I want to break this up? So I think I'm going to break it up like this. I think I'm going to break it up to have this whole thing yes, math will be used, especially if you're getting into this game, you're going to be using math all the time. All the time. So pay attention in math class. Don't do like I did and have to learn it after you've graduated and you don't have anybody to ask and you just have to ask the internet. For Unreal, I don't think you need a different shader for glass. You might, because there's two types of shaders in Unreal. So I'm not super well versed in Unreal. I'm pretty new to it. I haven't done glass yet, so we'll figure that out. So I might make this guy his own thing, because that's the only piece of glass I have on him. What was I saying? Oh yeah, okay. So I'm gonna make this top part one. I think actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna make, because I built those separately, I'm gonna make the wires a separate one, and I'm also going to make the brain its own thing. And I do this a lot. Like, I'll just stop working in 3D and just try to work out the logistics of what I'm going to do next, because doing it like this is much easier than doing it trying to figure it out and do the UVs at the same time. Okay, so that's going to be one piece. My brain will be another piece, will be another tile. I think my wires, those will be another tile. I'll put my glass on its own tile. And let's see, I'll put my face. That'll be all on its own. Maybe I'll do face and body. Yeah, I'll do face and body. And then I think I'll do my arm as one. My leg will obviously be one. And then the opposite ones will be different. So this guy will be one, and running out of colors, brown. This one will be one. So I'll have, let's see, how many do I have now? So this is one. Ooh, too big. This guy. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 8 and ooh, 9. Oh, perfect. Great. Great. So that's 9. So what this will allow me to do, this will give me so do you try to keep minimum to a minimum or doing this? It's basically whatever. Like, I get that question a lot. It's like, how many UDIM tiles should I have? It's literally, and so for this situation, it's kind of hard because this is like purely academic, and I don't know what I'm going to use this thing for. It always depends. It always depends how many tiles I have. So for visual effects, like they'll split a character like in half. Like they'll cut their face in half. So the half of their face will be on one tile, half of their face will be on another tile. And that's because of like if you have shots like if you think of like Battle Angel Aelita, right? Her whole eye, just her eye was full frame, right? At IMAX size, right? So this piece of her face right here had to be double whatever IMAX is. So this had to be like 32K, like a 32K texture. So you can basically take if you're going with you're doing creatures, like you can cut part. Like I've seen parts where it's UDIM tiles on creatures where it's like this is a tile. This part of the mouth is a tile. That part of the mouth is a tile. That part of the mouth is a tile. Each ear is its own tile. That's for like really, really super, super high res stuff. Yeah, you can get like I know that the Transformers had like literally hundreds of tiles on them. Godzilla probably had hundreds of tiles on them as well, because each part of them has to get very, very close to camera, and that texture resolution has to hold up. Conversely, if you're working on like, you know, a student film or a mobile game or an indie game, maybe this guy's like super far away, right? Or maybe he doesn't appear a lot, and you can get away with just smashing everything into one. So it really depends on your use case for how this stuff is done. But because I have 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What I really like about this is if I did want to unify this, because it's 9 tiles, I can take this and just make this just shrink this down to 1, and it'll still fit. Like I don't have to stretch it or anything like that, like, because this can be, if I shrink that down into that one title, can be that. So that's why I try to always work in square numbers, because you can go up and down, and it gives you a lot of leeway. Now, the other thing that you can do is within this part, you can basically do that. So I can split this part up. I can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Lay that out like that, and then squish it down. So I do that a fair bit as well. So I'm going to save this, because this is actually important. All right, great. Let's see. Where did it put that now? Let's see. All right. Actually, I'm gonna do a snipping tool here. Just want to make sure I have, because I did all that work. There we go. I'm just gonna keep this off to the side over here. Save it. I'll put this on my desktop. So I think it saved those guys to my desktop. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. So I'm just going to keep that off to the side. Nope. Because I'm going to keep referring back to that. I'm going to clear this out. Drop this down. What is it? Tool? I really like this. Yeah. So Trash Heart asked, "What is the tool that I'm using?" It's a tool called Epic Pen. It's really, really cool. There's a free version. I have the paid version. So that's what allows me to do like typing and stuff. But the free version gives you the pen and the highlighter and screen capture and like six colors. So it's a really good tool. I use it a lot, like all the time now. So it's really good. Yeah, planning is always more efficient than not planning. Very, very much more efficient than not planning. Okay, so, all right, so I'm going to start to group these things together into their own tile. So I said this guy is going to be his own tile. So I'm going to Control G, and so call this. So I'll just call this what it is, 1001. And the other thing is, the other thing that's really interesting about this workflow is your modeling organization for your scene, your look dev organization for your scene, and your rigging organization for your scene don't have to be the same. Like, I thought they had to be the same. They all had to be the same across. The only thing that needs to be the same is your actual model, right? But you can organize your scene in different ways for different things. So I'm going to call it 1. Okay, so I have all this. And I want to lay this out in 0 to 1. So I'm going to use my handy dandy layout tool, and I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to hold down Shift and click my layout. So what I want to do is I'm going to do my packing resolution. I'm going to do this at 4096. Because I think I'm going to do these, and I think I'm going to do 4K textures on these. I can always squeeze them back down, but I think I'm going to do 4K textures. Packing iterations, I'm going to set up to 10 because I want it to be, so the packing iteration, what it does is it packs it once and then it checks for the empty space. And then it packs it again, it checks for the empty space. Packs it, packs it, packs it, packs it, packs it, packs it, packs it. Right, so it keeps doing that. So the more times it packs, the better your packing algorithm is going to be. The longer it's going to take, though. My computer's pretty fast, so I think I can deal with it. Pack together non-overlapping. Yes, that's what I want. Shell rotation, I'm going to say... Vertical, horizontal, doesn't really matter in this case. I wish there was a free option. It's just like rotate it however you want. But we'll say horizontal. Pre-scaling, I always have preserved 3D ratios turned on. Because basically what that does is it says it looks at this guy and it looks at that guy and makes sure they're the same size as they are in 3D space. Translate shells, rotate shells. Yeah, allow it to rotate my shells. And let's do rotation steps. Let's do 10%. So that'll allow it to rotate as much as I need it to. Map size, once again, going to do 4096. And so now here's where the magic happens. So basically my shell padding, I usually do 16 and 16. Are there instances where overlapping would? Yes. In video games, they'll use overlapping a lot to save texture space, or at least they used to, and like kind of like mobile games and stuff. So what you'll do, a lot of times I'd see in video games, like the face, like you'd have the face and then the side of the head, and then like these UVs on the side of the head would be the same as these, right? Because you can't really see two sides of somebody's face at the same time, right? So you can see the front, and then they'll make the UV seam far enough back so you don't see any seam, and then the seam will be here, and then this side of the face would overlap that side, or this side of the head would overlap that side of the head. So they don't have to have, so their ears look exactly the same, but the side of the head looks exactly the same, but you never see them at the same time. So they'll do that with the side of the head. They'll do that with basically from the bicep down, or like they'll use the shoulder as a cut point. So they'll go from the shoulder down, and they'll copy the UVs for the hands and legs, stuff like that. So it's just to save texture space, so you get the most texture space out of it as you can. Okay. So I'm going to pack this. So let's apply. So I need to maybe select it. Apply. So maybe 10 iterations was too much. this back down to 1. Oh, that's what it is. I need to take my packing resolution down. This is the resolution I was thinking of, not this one. Okay. So let's put this back down to 256. There we go. Okay. So this is packing terribly. I'm wasting all this room up here. So now, in a packet, I'll try to pack stuff with automatic. A lot of times I just have to do this by hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten these guys out, and then I'll just pack these things by hand. This is simple enough to pack by hand. So I'm going to grab these two, and we'll just move them over here. And what I'm going to do, like I said, a lot of times it's nice if the automatic stuff works, but if the automatic stuff doesn't work, just got to get in there, do it by hand. Like this type of packing works great for square things, but oblong things like this, sometimes they just don't come out. That gives me that. Good packing is basically whatever is going to give you the most texture resolution for your object. So this is like, it's not great. It's better than it was because I'm still wasting a lot of this space. So what I actually think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to straighten this guy. So I'm just going to pull this down. I'm just going to run a unfold along U, and then unfold along V, and then I'll do straighten UVs. Yeah, there we go. Very nice. So this is now completely straight. This is also tucked inside of here, like it's underneath there, so I'll rarely ever see it. So I'm not being super kind of conservative about my distortion. Sometimes you just got to get in there, get the nitty gritty. No, it's unpopular, but sometimes you got to do it. Right, let me turn off this guy. There we go. From real, I presume you're having a non-overlapping UVs that would be created For Unreal, I presume you are having non-overlapping UVs, or would you need to create a separate light map? Never tried virtual texturing. Perhaps that works with different stuff. It's super interesting. Yeah. So Unreal will generate you a second set of UVs automatically, and it'll really dice up your model for the light map. And it doesn't really care because you're not painting textures on that. That's all calculated texture. So I usually just let, if I ever have to do that, it's very rare that I have that I use light maps and UVs, mostly because, like I said, I work in visual effects. If I have to use a light map, I let not UVs. I let Unreal do the light mapping for the light mapping for me. So it creates a second set of UVs. A lot of the Houdini to Unreal tools rely on multiple UV sets. They'll make like 2, 3, or 4 sets of UVs. Okay, so I'm gonna call that done for my dome, and I said I was gonna do 9, so I'm gonna work my way in. So this one's gonna go over here, so it's all nice and out of the way. So this would be let's see, 1, 2, 3. So that would be 3, and this would be 1, 2, 3. So it'll be 3, 3. Okay. My next thing is my wires. So my wires, I got my UVs out of Houdini. So that's pretty much already done. So Control G, Control P. So this would be 2, 3, 3. Okay. Next part is my brain. I'm going to go ahead and increment and save. Control G, P. So this would be that's going to go here. So that's 0. So that would be 10, 1, 2, 3, 1. And I usually have an atlas up when I'm naming these things. I should bring up the atlas because I think I named one of those wrong, but we'll figure it out later. Okay, so that's my brain. So I'm just, this one should pack okay because these are relatively square. Ooh. Select it. Yeah. I think I'm okay. Am I okay? Am I okay with this? Yeah. Now, because this thing is so organic, I'm just gonna stretch it. Now, that's sometimes a big no-no, but because I know I'm going into substance, I don't think I'm gonna be directly painting on this. So most of this is gonna be procedural textures, so I think I can get away with a teensy bit of stretching. Actually, I'm going to do 32 and 32. Yeah, that feels better. And let me do one layout just to make sure, or an unfold. All right, cool. I'm okay with this. And why is this? Ah, that's why. 32. not 2. All right, that's pretty. Yeah, that's feeling pretty good. That's feeling pretty good. Can probably move this up just a little bit so it's in the center, not all packed down to the side, and so that will go up here. So here. So I got that top row done. And yeah, so like I was saying, the great thing about this is because these are so small, like these don't all these patches don't have to be the same resolution. This one can be one resolution, this one can be another resolution, this one can be another resolution. So you can do that as you see fit. Let me pull up my texture atlas. Make sure I'm naming these correctly. I always name them differently. So, let's see. Let's see. Ah, there we go. So this is 31, 32, and 33. So this should be 31. This one should be 32. And that one should be 33. Perfect. There we go. Okay, moving on. The next one. So this is going to be the hard one. Is this whole kind of upper head piece. So what I'm going to do now is let's see what's this guy. All right, so I have all that. I think it's my ear as well. My ear. Yeah, so those, I want all those to be in its own thing. But I don't want this, like if I were to just pack this as it is, like it's just going to jumble everything up. I still want some sort of order to this. So I have 1 piece, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then these could be 12. So I have 4 pieces left. So let's see, maybe 1, 2. These guys are 3. So I'm gonna probably get to 9, right? So maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't want to partition this. 1, 2. I definitely want those to be in their own because they're big. 3, 4, right? That's because that's going to be on either side. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then these guys can be 9. Yeah. Okay, great. So that's how I'll do it. So this guy is going to be 1. We're going to do layout. And the cool thing about this is I can actually tell this exactly where I want to lay this out. So this will be 2. So down here, what I can do is I can say distribute or let's see, shell centers. Okay, so what this is going to say is it says it's going to say tiles 1 to 1. So U1 to V1. So I think I can do U2. a little rusty. I haven't done this in a while. V1. Across. Full square. Custom. Ah, here we go. Okay. So this tells me where I want to place this. So I want to place this between U, because U goes this way, 1 and 2. Because this is V1, this is V2. So I'm going to say V1, V2. So now that one's packed exactly there. So I can keep doing this. So I said, okay, so this is 1, 2. This is going to be 3. So I'll pack this here. The easier way to do this, like if you don't want to fiddle with this, you can just leave this at 0 to 1 and just move them. Actually, I'll just do that. So I want this one to be 3. So I'll just kind of UV 3. So this guy, that guy, 1, 2, that one. So that's that bottom row. And I think I might be able to pack this guy in with these as well. Let's see. Yeah, that's okay. I think I'm going to set this back to 90. So I don't like these wonky angles I'm getting. And this guy is like buried inside of the body, so I rarely ever see that, so I can make him a little bit smaller. So I'm going to make him a lot bit smaller. Hopefully that's the back one. Okay, so that's 3. I said 4 was going to be this guy. Maybe I can do it in 4. 1, 2. Yeah, I'll do it in 1, 2. Yeah. Yeah, this guy. I think this guy's already packed. So this. Yeah, that's already packed. So that can go. Layout UVs. That can go up 1. So I have 1. So actually, let me group these. Just for my own sanity. This one. These guys are grouped. Okay. That's that guy. We'll lay out this guy here. I'm going to go ahead and mirror this as well as I'm doing this. Mesh mirror. Okay, so that's 3 there. So here. Here, 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 So those two, like that. This guy, this guy. And so I have 4 more slots. So, oh wait, no. I have 3 more slots because I have my bolts here. Now my bolts are so small, I'm okay with having those overlap on either side. I think that I'm okay with that. Because no one's going to be like, oh, this bolt is exactly the same as that bolt. Or if they do, they're looking way too hard. So I'm going to go ahead and mirror this as well. So modify, mirror, mirror. Ooh, I don't want to mirror my UVs though. I want my UVs to be exactly the same. Okay. So this guy. Going to lay him out. And now that I think about it, I can put these two together. These two will be really good together because I can seat this circle inside of this guy. Yeah, that'll work out really well. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's do this. Let's delete this space and let's lay these guys out together. So this guy's laid out. I'm going to lay out this guy, which I've already done. So these two can go together. And like I said, and I say this a lot, there is no straight road. Like this is very, very normal where you're just kind of like sitting here like, oh, maybe that can go with that, maybe that can go with that, maybe that can go over there. It's just how it works. Okay, so that's going to go there. Yes, that lines up nicely. Okay. All right. So what I can do with these two, so I'll mirror that. Take this guy, this top guy. Scoot him over one and mirror this guy. So that goes over. Grab that face. Pop him over one. So now these two. So if we do this guy. That guy, the bolts, and I have 3 chunks at the top. In industry, sometimes it depends on where you go. In some places, the modelers do the UVs. In some places, the texture artists do the UVs, and some places, one person does everything. It just depends. Depends on the studio you're working in. Okay, so I have 3 more slots to do. So this, I think I'll have these be, yeah. So I'll have this section, so this will be its own thing, so this will be 1, 2, and then these guys will be on top of each other. So that, lay that out. So this. That'll go up there. And then also with these guys, I will mirror them. Do face. Move that guy over. And do face. This is probably going to be the most complex part. Because there's so many different pieces that I need to deal with. what do we have so far? What do we have now? So we have these three. I'll group these two. These three. These two get grouped. This gets grouped. These get grouped. All right. And the last little section here is going to be for these little doodads. And this will get mirrored. Delete all that history. And so let's look at these. All right, so those three. Actually, these two should get laid out together because they're part of that same thing. So I'm going to do face. Let's get rid of this. And I'm going to lay out these two guys together. This one and that one. Okay. And we'll take both of these and we'll mirror them. Those two go together. Cool. So I'm going to take all these and group them. So I have them all together. So that is going to be, I'll make this. So that was 3 1 3 2 3 3. This one I'm going to put, so it's 3 1 3 2 3 3. I'm going to put over here. So that would be, go back to my little cheat sheet off screen. That would be, actually no, these would be 2 3 2 2 2 1. So these would be 2, not 3. 2. 2, 2. And this one would be, if I want that to go right here, that would be 10, 11. Right. So this is the chart I'm looking at. This guy over here. Right, cool. So I have all these guys are all broken up. So now I can start to come in and kind of start to optimize this a little bit because I have, like, I'm wasting a lot of space in here. So I know I'm working with this big kind of square in here. So I can kind of start to scoot some stuff around. So I'm going to grab these guys. Scoot them over because I know I can push that over there. These guys. These are pretty important, so they're going to get a little bit more space. This guy is also pretty important. Let's get a little bit more space. So it's trying to fill as much space as I can. Yeah, everything else looks, I think it looks okay. Just those two pieces were wasting a fair bit of space. So now, this is where the magic happens. I just take everything, take my pivot, put it down at the bottom, and then I can come in here and I can do scale. So I can do point, I think 2.5, is it? Boom, no. Maybe it's 0.5. Now let's do it by hand. So I'll put that down in the corner and scoot everything down. And we see that because it was 9, because I did all that kind of like big brain work or whatever you want to call it, that all fits very nicely in this 0 to 1 space. That is a thing of beauty. So if we look at all these now, boom, just like that. So now I can take this guy, take all these UVs, just scoot them up one. So that's done. So next one will be the next tile. So the next one, what did I say I was going to do that as? That was going to be the head. So basically all this and the body. So these guys. All right, so how do I want to break this up? So I think I'll do, so I think I can get away with 4. So if I do 2 pieces for each one. So I'll do 1, the eyes will be 2, this will be 3, and that'll be 4. I think that'll work out nicely. Way out. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And that's 4. Easy peasy. So this will be, one would think I've done this enough, I should remember what these tiles are called. 10, 12. 10, 12. Oh, I forgot to UV this little guy in here. Oh, great. That's fine. I can do that real quick. Super simple. Let's go and do, actually delete all my history. And we'll go to my 3D sewing tool. Just grab that edge there. This guy's all stuck up all up inside the body. That's why I forgot about him. Take this guy, unfold, layout, and then I'll mirror this over. Cool. All right. So let's relay out that body part again. So grab this guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy. And then we can scoot this over. There we go. And once again, I usually go in and try to clean some things up inside of this square. For these eyes, I kind of want them all to be generally the same. Like this is off that way, that's off that way, that's off that way. I want them to be generally the correct orientation. So I'm going to say that guy. And I can actually put these. The eyes are kind of important. So I can move them over here, give them a little bit more texture space, because I have it to spare. Same thing with these guys. Want them to have more or less the same orientation. So I'll have to fix some of this overlapping. Straighten. There we go. Let's see. There's a pretty big chunk there that I'm not using. Let's see what can go there. Let's see if we can straighten these out. Yeah, it feels good. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna leave those as they are. Oh, I know what I can do. I can put, let's see. That's not what I want. I can nest these UVs inside of each other. So I'm gonna grab this. What are those parts? What are these parts? Okay, yeah. I'm gonna nest these inside of each other. So this. It's gonna go inside of here. Shrink that down a little bit. This guy go inside of there. So they're like backdrops, so I'm not super worried about them. Yeah, and I'll just nest all of this. So this will go inside here. So what that allowed me to do is collectively make this whole thing a little bit bigger. So I kind of squeezed it down so I can make it bigger overall. And these little guys can get pushed off to wherever they need to be to not be overlapping. I'm sure there's some texture artist out there that's looking at this just rolling around in their grave being like, what are you doing? But, you know, teach their own. Teach their own. Yeah, that's looking good. I'm feeling that. All right, so same thing. Grab everything. This goes down in the corner. This is down just like that. I really want to make sure that none of these are poking out on the side, because that'll cause me problems in Substance later. All right, so there's my body, all nice and laid out. Okay, so let's look at what I got so far. Yeah, it's looking real nice. Looking real nice. Yeah, I'm liking that. Liking that a lot. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to get this in the Substance. It's going to be so dope. This is getting a little bit too close to the edge for my comfort. Compared to the first one you did, everybody's first UV layout is absolute garbage. There's just no way around it. All right, so our leg. Let's move on to our leg. So this is going to be all one. So I've actually already laid this out as all one. It's all kind of jumbled up though. So let's see if I can do upper leg, lower leg. So we'll do upper leg, 1, 2. Yeah, we'll do upper leg, 1, 2. Lower leg, 1, 2. Yeah. So this guy, layout like that. This guy, layout. These could probably be nested really a lot. So that's 1, 2 there. And then this guy, I'm going to lay out these vents on their own. I can wedge those in somewhere where they look like they should belong. Because vents, stuff like these vents lay out really, really nicely. So I'm just going to take these and pull them off to the side for a minute. Actually, I want to do that. Okay, so I'm going to do, what did I say? 1, 2, and then 1 is this going to be this leg, and then the foot is going to be 2. So I'll go there, and then all this stuff. So this is the benefit of working in stages. So I know that after I did that first phase, right, I know all this stuff is cut up and it's flat. So now I'm just working on logistics, basically. Oh, that worked out really nice, because I can set those vents in just there. I do kind of want them to be all the same rotation, though. So let's go there. Oh, yeah, that fits quite nicely. Fits in swimmingly, just there. And I think I'm going to nest these guys. So I can get a little bit more space. Let's see. I want to nest this into. Pull these off. I'm going to nest this into 4. So this one, that one. This one I'll bring down, because any 4 circles will make a very nice, will make a really nice square. So these are like really minor details, so I'm not super worried about if the texture resolution isn't spot on. I just want to make sure that nothing overlaps. That's the big thing. I think there's a command that says like stack shells or something like that. I can look for that here in a second. Let's see. I think it's called stack shells. Yeah. Yeah, stack shells. There we go. So I'll just put all that stuff directly on top of each other. So now that I have that, I can come up here and make this bigger. So I could probably go up here and do the same thing with this, but I'm getting tired. So we got about half an hour left. So let's throw this down here and squeeze this in. Right, so that's my leg. So that's going to go left leg, left arm, right arm. Oops. Oh, that's my body. So this is going to be UDIM. Let's see, that's 12. I think that'll be 13. 10, 13. Cool. And so now what I'll do is, so instead of using the mirror command, what I'll do is I'll just duplicate this group, this whole group, Control D, and then I will go in, I'll just say, I'll just negative the X. So scale X, -1. There we go. Feet are really close together. So let's un-isolate. Right, so this would be, let's see, that's 10, 13. This would be 10. Let's see. Actually, no, that would be, let's see, 10, 11, 12, 11, 12. Actually, I like that one there because that's the face, so we're going to make that one 1001. So this is the third row. That's going to be, this is going to be the second row. This is the first row. Yeah, so that's going to be 12. And the next one will be 13. So this one, I need to scoot over one. Cool. I'm digging where this is going. I'm gonna delete all my history. I'm gonna save. Okay. So that we're moving along, moving really fast. Like I'm really liking how this is where this is going. A lot. A lot, a lot. Yeah. So, let's see. Now we have the left arm and the right arm. Now this one is going to be a absolute beast. Like, cause that I have the whole arm, the pistons, the cables, and the claw all to get into one kind of section. So I may end up splitting this up a little bit more. Like I might split the pistons and the cables up into their own thing, mostly because they're already their own thing. So how do I want to do this? So I think I know I'm going to do, I think I know I'm going to end up doing UVs, so I can kind of abandon the 3x3. If I really need to, I can move some stuff around back into this 3x3 and crush it down. But I think because I've already done all the legwork for these pistons and these cables, and the claw is, yeah, the claw is pretty, let's lay this out one more time, see what it does. Yeah, it's more or less the same. Like anytime you have like big circles, let's see, stack similar. Yeah, anytime you have big circles, you kind of have to nest them yourself, which is, no, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. But yeah, if I can nest these, I can get them, because the claw is just like a bunch of teensy little pieces. It's like all these little bolts and stuff. Let's see here. Let's look at my arm group. See what's in there. That's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7. And I could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ooh, I could do, yeah, that'll work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pistons are 8. Cables are 9. Yeah. Yeah, that'll work. So each one of these can just get laid out. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That one's wasting a lot of space. I can probably move that around once I get this all together. 3, 4. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. And then this is 7. And then my pistons will be over 1. And my cables so if I look, so this guy, so that's everything there. That's my pistons. There's my cables. Now, I think I can squeeze my claw because this is so thin. This can come down here. And my claw can go here. So yeah, it's like a big puzzle. Like, you just have to figure out where things need to slot in with other things. I'm probably giving these vents way too much credit. They're like this tiny thing, and they have like all this data. So maybe they can get slotted into somewhere else. Let's grab. Like, once again, I want them to all be the same orientation. Stack. Distribute. Yeah. So these can actually slide in right there. I'm trying to keep things in pseudo regions. Yeah, I'm still looking for some good tunes to play while I'm doing that. When I kind of get into that Zen mode. Actually, let's do this. Let's move these over here. It's like trying to find a parking spot. Like, yeah, that fits. That fits nicely. Okay, so if that's the case, and I have my claw left over, let's see, can I squeeze this down into 4 if I wanted to? Because I want to keep these 2 sections. Those are the most important ones for me at this point. So I have 2 sections left. One of those sections is going to be my claw, and then do I want to put all this into one section? This is where it gets tricky. So let's do this. I'm going to pack this guy, that guy together. Okay. And then that's that inside piece. Let's do all that. Yeah, that's working nice. So this whole upper arm is a piece. Whole lower arm is going to be a piece. vents, yeah, my vents can go here. So those are such a small detail. I don't really need to have a lot of data on those guys. Okay. Nice. Cool. All right, so there's all that, and then I guess I'll just have the claw be its own thing. Really want to make sure I don't have anything poking over the edge, like there, like that's poking over the edge. Okay, yeah, so that's my upper arm. So that will go that'll go left and then right. And then my claw will be left and right here. Yeah. So that's my upper arm, my pistons, and my cables. That all gets grouped. Yeah, there. Sure I got that right. Good. Yeah, so there's the arm. Yeah, I was gonna do all the brain connections. I was gonna do like a animated thing because you can animate them because I did those wires in Houdini, so I could have like kind of like electricity running through them or whatever. But I'm just kind of like focusing on modeling right now. But yeah, he's coming along nicely. His feet are a little bit too close together, but I can fix that, and when I put the joints back in the rig, that'll work fine. Okay, so I'm gonna do the same thing. So this is what UDIM is this now. This is 1002. And I'm gonna duplicate this just like I did before. Do a negative X. And this will be 1003. Take all this, UV shell, bump it over one. All right, coming along. I'm liking where this is at. This is looking really good. Now I just have my claw to deal with, and maybe some shuffling. So I think what I'm gonna do is, I think I'm gonna put my brain and my brain wires together. Yeah. Yeah. Going to do that. Because my brain wires, they are so small, they do not warrant their own UDIM tile. Yeah. So those were in here. Can just nestle themselves right here with their little brain buddies. Yeah. So this guy, this will go in with this. So now I have 2 slots open. So there's that. That, and that. Actually, I have 1 slot open. And my claw will go in there. So this, if I look here, make sure this is the right, this should be 2-1. I'll make this one 2-2. Scoot all that over. Zero, 11. Let's put these in order. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. There. 11, 12, 13. 21, 22, and then the claw is going to go here in 23. So what I could try to do is lay this out in half and see what happens. So let's do this. Let's do layout, and what I'll do is I'll lay out from in U from 0 to 0.5, and that'll actually, you know what I can do instead of that? I can just do left half. You know, try to pack everything into that left half. Cool. And then, so then, when I take, if I wanted to mirror this whole thing, yeah, that'll work. So I'll do my claw group. So both of those will now fit inside of this one. So this one's 1 claw's on the left half, 1 claw's on the right half. And these are just, I think that's okay. I'll leave it. Starting to nitpick. So I'll duplicate this and mirror it over. Okay. So on this mirror, I'll take all this stuff, grab my UV shells, and so now what I can do is instead of moving 1, I can move 0.5. So now if I press over, just moves it half. So now my 2 claws sitting right next to each other in their little UV space. So this will become UDIM 1023. Make sure to set that half back to 1. All right. Woo! That was a mission. Wow. Wowie, wow, wow, wow. So let's review our work, shall we? So I got my brain up here with my bolts. I have my glass. So this may end up being its own shader, so that's all on its own. Got my claws here. So they each have individual, but they're pretty small. So they get their own thing. Let's make sure that nothing is coming off the sides here. Okay. This is my brain case here. These are my legs. This is my head and my eyes. This is my eyes down here. This is my body. Pistons. Wires. Yeah, pistons, wires. Pistons, wires. All fits in this square. So what this has allowed me to do is if I did want this to be now a single, if I wanted this to be a unified texture, I could just take all this and scale it down by 1/3, whatever that number is, and I would get that back down to a unified texture. Or, and this will scale up nicely. So let's look at our wireframes, and let's view. Oh, actually I have to select everything there to see my checkerboard. So there are my UVs. So looking at this, I mean, they seem pretty regular. Not too much. I feel like this headpiece is getting cheated a little bit. Like there's not too much space there. So that might be a problem. So I might need to level out between, I might need to make these a little bit smaller and these a little bit bigger. But for second pass, I'm super happy with this. Yeah. So final thing, I'm going to say delete all my history. Make sure nothing has history on it. I'm going to go back to my classic object mode. And so I'm also going to select all these guys and freeze their transformations. This guy should get his transformation frozen as well. It's all looking pretty good. And I'm going to, let's see. So I'm going to 0 all these pivots. That's the last thing I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my window, general editor, attribute spreadsheet. Asset editor. And I'm going to go to all, and I'm going to look for a local, actually not local, pivot. So I have these local pivots and these rotate pivots. So I'm just going to grab this one, go all the way down to the bottom, and say 0. So all those pivots should be now stuck to the bottom. Oh, I did want to do that on my pistons. Sorry. My pistons are always like a special case. And actually, not really. I don't really care about that. Like, yeah, like, because I have my pistons, I have these pivots all. So I think I do want to have those down there. So we're going to do modify, freeze transformations. Let's freeze everything. And then we're going to do that same thing. Windows, general editors, attribute spreadsheet. Make sure all that stuff is 0. Grab this guy. Double check. All right. So I think we're gonna call this. I'm gonna call this ready to go into look development. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna group all this. Call this Cortex. Sweet. Oh man. Whew. That was a lot. That was a lot to go through. So we went through texture packing. We went through UDIMS, UDIM theory. We went through shader-based theory. We went through unified theory. How to like look at your model and be like, okay, this is what I want to split up, and this is what I want to split up. This is a really pseudo complex robot. Like, he's got a lot of parts. So this is why I say, like, doing robots is a pain. It just takes, it's just like all these little pieces, whereas like with like you have a monster or like a dragon or like a character, you have like face, body, clothing, you know, maybe you have some armor and stuff, but with robots it's just all these little pieces. It takes forever. Yeah, cool. So that's the stream for tonight. Thank you everyone for coming in. Thank you for participating. This was super fun. I'm looking forward to this all week long. Once again, cgspectrum.com/3D modeling. I'm Bryan Bentley. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me. So hopefully between the streams, I love saying that. Between the streams, I'm gonna go in and rename all of these pieces of geometry, because some of them are still named like poly, like, you know, polycube or polyface, whatever. But I don't want you to sit here and watch me do that. I'll do that offline, and then hopefully next stream we'll get into some texturing in Substance Painter. So maybe adding some cut lines, doing some extra damage. Right? It'll be really, really, really fun. So we're kind of getting out of that slog. You kind of hit like this slog when you're modeling. You're like just trying to get everything done. You're trying to get to the next part. We're getting to the next part. You got to stick in there. All right. So that's the stream for today. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy.